All right, guys, welcome back into another NFL DFS video. My name is Eric Polzin with 9 to 5 Sports. Going to be getting into this Saturday slate. Going to be touching on the 3-game slate, full slate-wise. Then going to be touching on them individually, showdown-wise. Okay, obviously, showdown-wise, I'll start off with the Indy and Minnesota game. But yeah, I'm excited to do a live stream here. Excited to have you guys back. I know I haven't been able to do the live streams that much. I don't know, I've just enjoyed putting out the shorter form content, but also with the Saturday slate, I thought a live stream would make sense. So if this is something you guys want more of, make sure to let me know, whether that be in the comment section below or leaving a like. If there's any hiccups with the live stream as well, let me know in the chat. Like I said, it's been a while since I've done a live stream. So let's get into it. So let's just start off with the main slate. So as it sits right now, we know Lamar Jackson is out. Okay, that is news. That we got. Tyler Huntley is active. He's going to play. And to me, that makes the slate a little bit annoying, to be honest with you. Like, can Tyler Huntley do enough against Cleveland rushing the ball? He ran the ball 9 times last game and 10 times the previous game. Okay. He put up, about 7 DK points in a half of football. That's a big question mark. I don't think we need to go that route because I think if we're going a value price point quarterback, we are going with someone like Matt Ryan going against the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, this is a great matchup. And if he is someone that can throw the ball 35 plus times, that's intriguing to me. I do expect him to be able to throw a touchdown as well. The biggest question I have is, will the Vikings be able to get enough pressure? And if they don't, Matt Ryan should be able to feast. Now, if they do get enough pressure, Matt Ryan's going to struggle. It's pretty much as simple as that, Getting close to 5K subscribers. I'm hoping to get there before the new year. I don't know if I will. Having those 2 weekends off a couple of weeks ago kind of ruined that, but yeah. We got someone betting 2 TDs for Mark Andrews. That's bold. That is very bold. Mark Andrews has been struggling lately, and he does get a tough matchup. That's definitely bold. That'd be a big payout right there. Yeah, but let's get back into the quarterbacks here. So for me, the issue that we have on the slate obviously is going to be the weather between the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills. And that's the biggest question mark on the slate. Like, what do you do with that information? And if you guys didn't see this, I'm sure most of you guys have seen this. Lots of snow, going to be windy there. So pretty much the thought process is that for this game, it's going to be much harder to score in, just in general. But at the same time, kind of the news that I've been reading about this stuff, and just kind of from my own experience, is that it is much harder to play defense in poor weather situations because obviously the offense knows where they're going, the defense doesn't. So if the offense makes a cut that they're already planning for, the defense can't adjust as much. Is pretty much what it is. But for me, I kind of see this being a low scoring game. So for me, I don't know if I want to play Josh Allen or even Tua at that same sense. So that makes the slate much more difficult for me if we're not being able to pay up for the top quarterback on the slate, because you guys will see there's a ton of value. So for me, it's like Deshaun Watson, who I don't feel comfortable paying up for, but he did, look better last game, did put up 17 DK points, obviously gets a great matchup against Baltimore. I have kind of been defaulting to him, which I don't like. I think that's ugly. And that's the biggest issue with the main slate. And that's kind of why I like the showdown slates a little bit more. But also, I've kind of just been going with Matt Ryan, but then you have too much salary left over, okay, because Matt Ryan gets a good matchup. That is the issue that we have on the slate, is that there's no standout quarterback play with that weather situation. Now, can Josh Allen rush the ball for a touchdown or even like 60 rushing yards? Can he get a lot of rushing attempts? He certainly could. And can he throw a touchdown on a kind of blown coverage? He can. Okay, that's the issue that we have on this slate, though, is that who is going to be the top scoring quarterback? It is a big question mark. It really is. Like, most of the time we have a good idea of who to go with. It's tough. It's very tough. Everyone's playing Cousins. That is, interesting. I guess like just natural, that is kind of the natural mindset or thought process. It's like, oh, there's no good play. Let's just go with Kirk Cousins. But at the same time, it's like, he could easily be a bust, especially against the Colts D that has been pretty decent. I don't know. I don't really like that. I think I'd rather go Watson in a better matchup. That's the summary of the slate, though. So yeah, talking about the weather, weather games is where you want to go. or the rushing game is where you want to go in these weather games. Yes, but also like Mostert makes a lot of sense. Don't get me wrong with the Jeff Wilson injury, and I'll just switch it into the running backs now, guys. But like for the Buffalo Bills, Devin Singletary only playing about 50% of the snaps now, and he's looked good. And I could see them committing to running the football with him a little bit more. But at the same time, like we can't really depend on that either. So that is another big situation that we have on this slate is that really we got Mostert, who if Jeff Wilson is indeed ruled out, would be a great, I don't want to say great play either, would be a good enough play. But at the same time, the yards per carry are going to be low because both teams would know that they're going to be rushing the football. So that I don't want to like punt that game, but at the same time, I kind of want to punt that game. It's obviously the biggest issue that we have on this slate. Just reading the questions here. Yeah, I mean, Cousins is going to pop. I don't trust him today. So for me, like running back wise, I actually like Jonathan Taylor a lot. Obviously going to be on the field a lot, going to get 20 opportunities, going against the Minnesota defense that has struggled. And we got to pay up for someone. That's my biggest issue on the slate. We got to be able to pay up for someone. I've just kind of been defaulting to the best running back on the slate. You could say that's Nick Chubb, I guess. But then from there, it's like, do you go Dalvin Cook? I like Dalvin Cook again. Like Dalvin Cook played a lot of snaps last week, and it was going good up until his fumble last week. And I guess this would be a great pivot if Kirk Cousins is going to be chalky on this slate. Like Dalvin Cook could easily go off, and Kirk Cousins could easily struggle. And that would be a great leverage spot if it's a Dalvin Cook day instead of a Kirk Cousins day. Okay, and Kirk Cousins, I guess Kirk Cousins, that's just weird. I don't get it. He balled out against Detroit, but against the Jets, he was terrible. And, he did play well against New England, I guess. I mean, obviously it's risk reward. We can see that. That's just interesting there. And then looking at the running back situation for Baltimore, that's is also difficult. Like J.K. Dobbins both looked great and terrible. I don't know. Did you guys see any of J.K. Dobbins' film last week? Like you could tell it. He had the legs in which kind of pretty much me. If I were to go out and try to run like a lap around a track and then like sprint out the last fourth of it, my legs would be locking up. That's what it looked like for J.K. Dobbins on all of his big runs at the end of it. His legs were just locking up. So that's both a good thing and a bad thing that like he had the burst, had the vision, was able to get a lot of yards, but at the same time, like his legs are clearly not there. His body is clearly not there. He's probably playing at about 80%, but he gets a great matchup against Cleveland. And if he can see maybe 60% of the snaps tonight and get, 16 opportunities, that would be huge. And so I've kind of been defaulting to J.K. Dobbins as well, just giving the upside. But it's difficult there. Like I wish this slate was more straightforward. I do. And like looking at Justin Jefferson, like going against the Colts, where they have been strong defensively against DBs or against opposing receivers. At the same time, like it hasn't really mattered what the matchup was. So I've kind of been defaulting to paying up for Justin Jefferson on the slate as well. Because while in theory, we can't play Hill, given the weather, we can't play Diggs, and we can't play Waddle. Or at least we can't go gung-ho on them like we would have without that weather situation. So that kind of leads us to go with, obviously, Michael Pittman's going to be a standout play. Like you just want to play Michael Pittman, sure. In his last game against Dallas, had a poor game. Besides that, have been looking good. Once again, this Minnesota Vikings defense is not good. I will be targeting that defense, especially at this price point for Michael Pittman. Like, given the situation of the slate that we have, where there is a bad weather, and I hate talking about weather, guys. Like, the amount of times where focusing on weather has burned me exceeds the amount of times it did not help. So, like, every time I focus on weather, it seems to hurt me rather than help. So, Michael Pittman is someone that I do love if we are focused on the weather, and regardless, should be a strong price point play. Like, I think naturally you just need to end up on Michael Pittman. And Amari Cooper or DPJ is kind of who I've been going with after that for kind of my receiver 3 or number 2, depending on your lineup process. So looking at Amari Cooper, 6.1, obviously going against Baltimore, you like that. Obviously, if you are playing Deshaun Watson, it would be kind of a unique stack. Now, DPJ has been someone that has been on the field a ton this season, playing about 90% of the snaps. That is obviously highly appealing. So if we can get him, playing those snaps again in a great matchup, obviously you like that. Now, the first game back for Deshaun Watson was terrible. It was just a weird game against Houston. And then last week, DPJ had 12 targets, really kind of broke the slate. And he is someone that does kind of make sense given the price point. But at the same time, you could make a strong argument for Paris Campbell, for Alec Pearson. This is my issue, and I'll get into this on the Showdown slate. Like, Alex Pierce, guys, on the Showdown slate, it's going to be tough not to love Alec Pierce because he is so cheap. And on the main slate, it's kind of tough not to like Alec Pierce as well. He's just playing a lot, 75% of the snaps. They're going a lot of 11 personnel, so that means he's going to be on the field a lot. And, where he struggled against the Steelers, he actually looked pretty good against Dallas. And we have seen him get games in which he saw, over 6 targets. And I kind of do expect him to get over 6 targets. The thing with him as a play, it's like it doesn't take much for him to value at 3.9. And kind of just playing him opens up a lot on this slate. And so that's kind of the difficult part for me. It's like, do we pay up for Justin Jefferson, or do we take the value of Alec Pierce? We could take the value of Alec Pierce there. And then tight end wise, I could see a route in which you are playing 2 tight ends. And that would be a way to get unique on this slate. And so the 2 tight ends I'd be on would be TJ Hawkinson. Obviously, he is someone that's playing a lot as well, playing about 90% of the snaps, getting involved in the passing game a lot as well. Over 6 targets since he's joined the Minnesota Vikings, over 7 DK points in all those games as well. Like, he should be a safe play. And can he get you 10 DK points? He certainly can. So, like, I do want to pay up for TJ Hawkinson over David Njoku, just like raw wise. But if we factor in the price point, David Njoku is kind of just the natural play, especially if we are playing Deshaun Watson at quarterback and not Kirk Cousins. So here we go. Against Tampa Bay, 7 targets. And against Cincinnati, 9 targets, was able to convert that to 13.9 and 18.7 DK points. He is someone that was on the field a ton. The strange thing about it was when he first came back from injury in week 11, they were talking about easing him into the snaps. And then that all changed last week where he basically did not leave the field. So he is the tight end play that I'm going on my way to play. So once again, this is my biggest issue on the slate, guys, is just having way too much salary left over. And it's just like, what do you do with that? It's really a difficult part of this slate. You don't have to play J.K. Dobbins. Or you could go with J.K. Dobbins instead of Dalvin Cook. And this is all stuff I've already done lineup-wise. But that's just what makes the slate difficult. And so obviously you could go Dolphins defense and then something like Justin Jefferson. You still have too much salary left over. And maybe you go with the Bills defense instead. Obviously the snow game, you'd be wanting to use the defense. Gabe Davis. So I actually don't mind that. Once again, just retouching on the weather situation for that game. It's harder for defensive backs and safeties to really adjust to just routes in general. So if there were to be someone that were to pop a random big play, it would make sense for that to be Gabe Davis. But obviously you're just guessing there. So that is an interesting thought. So just going back and reading through the comments here. So yeah, some love for DPJ in there. Jets are a better defense. Why are we talking about Jets? I didn't catch that. If Baltimore gets behind, is Drake a good play? No, I don't know if we're going to see too much of Drake. I think it's going to be kind of an even split like it was last week for them. So I do expect J.K. Dobbins to get maybe 60% of the snaps, and then probably Gus Edwards spelling him, and then sure, in third down situations, Drake. But I do think we're going to see the even split like we did last week. Yeah, I don't know if I can buy into like a team not playing well in a certain weather condition too much. I mean, I get it, but I don't want that to be the sole reason I'm playing them. At the same time, I'm playing Miami or the Bills defense in pretty much all of my builds just because of the weather. But man, I'll tell you what, a great leverage spot would be the Vikings. Like, if you are fading Matt Ryan and some of the Colts players, if the Vikings can get home against Matt Ryan, like, would it be shocking to see them get like a sack, fumble 6 or something like that? And it's kind of one of those situations where either they're going to get home and the Vikings defense is going to go off, or they're not going to get home and Matt Ryan's going to go off. And so I have already put GPPs out there with kind of that focus both ways. And then obviously if you're playing Vikings defense, you would want to go with Dalvin Cook. Thoughts on NFL being rigged or fixed? That's not a thing. That's definitely not a thing. Thoughts on Thielen? Yeah, I don't hate Thielen. I talk about shoulder shrug plays all the time. That's kind of how I feel about Adam Thielen. So we're getting a lot of questions about the Minnesota game. Let me just go ahead and switch into that game. Okay, so yeah, on the main slate, Adam Thielen is just going to be more of a shoulder shrug play where if you end up on him, like you're fine with it, like you're not changing your build, you're kind of just shrugging your shoulders and going with it. I'm fine with that. And on the Showdown slate, I actually don't like him as a play. So on the Showdown slate, let's get into it. Indy versus Minnesota, obviously the first game on the slate. About an hour and a half until, lineup block, or hour and 40 minutes. So starting with it, let's go with the Colts. Michael Pittman at his price point is a very cheap price point. The chances of Michael Pittman being the highest score on the slate, I think, are pretty high, given the matchup, given the amount of snaps he's going to play, and given the amount of targets he should get in this game. Okay, 12.6 is actually a pretty cheap price tag for him as well. I do love playing him in the captain spot, and I do love playing him in the flex spot. Like, chances are he's going to be a great play for us on this slate, so I'm just going to go ahead and put him into the captain spot for now. Obviously, I'm going to go ahead and adjust this as it goes on. And then from there, we got to figure out what we want to do. Do we want to play Jonathan Taylor? I think we kind of need to on both the main slate and the Showdown slate. Showdown slate, it's tough not to play him just because he should have a nice, safe floor. Around 15 DK points. Against Dallas, 13.3. Still, we would take that. If you would have told me he was going to get 25 opportunities and play 90% of the snaps, you would have locked that in, okay, regardless of the outcome of the game. And so I do still really like Jonathan Taylor going against the Minnesota Vikings. Like, he's going to be on the field a ton, going to get 20-plus opportunities. It's tough not to love that. And I would say he has a good chance to score a touchdown as well. So he is someone that I think is going to be tough to pass up on. The question is, who's more likely to break the slate, Pittman or JT? That's for you guys to decide. I kind of like Pittman a little bit more. Yeah, the win in the Buffalo game is crazy. And like the talk about Buffalo not having a dome or retractable stadium, that talk needs to be going up because this is crazy. They already had to move one game. And now this, it's like, all right, at some point, no one likes it. The fans that have to go to the game don't like it. The players hate it. Like, it's not fun to watch. A retractable dome. I don't know why this is a random talk about the NFL being rigged. I don't see how you could rig it. It's just tough. Like what NFL reviews, like a play. No, you can't really rig it that way. It's just, these are all players going out there and, trying their hardest. I get that maybe the refs could have an influence on it somehow, but the refs have not been terrible this year. Like, I would say out of all the years, it's probably been the best reffing I've seen, where there's just not, I shouldn't even say reffing. The way that the NFL has set up the rules this year has been the best it has been, I think, in my lifetime, where everything is more logical this year than other years. And like the expectations behind calls are easier to spot. Like, I guess roughing the passer is the only one that is questionable with the Tom Brady and Justin Herbert sacks. Other than that, pretty much it's been easy to spot what the calls were, So I don't see why it'd be rigged. That's just weird. I get it. Like NBA was rigged at one point and whatnot, with the refs a little bit, but no. Okay. Getting back into this game, getting into the lineup process for the Showdown. Sorry about that. My biggest thing on the slate is that Alec Pierce is so cheap, both for flex and captain purposes. And I kind of feel the same way I do about Paris Campbell as I do for Alec Pierce. Like, both of these guys, like Paris Campbell, if you're playing him, it's kind of like George Kittle on the last slate. If you're playing him, you're probably going to play him in the captain spot. Now, I don't love him as much as I like George Kittle on that slate, but if Paris Campbell has a good game, like he could really break the slate. Like, that's the only way I would play him. Is if it's in the captain spot. And obviously that would open up a lot. But I actually like Alec Pierce a little bit more. Just given the price point, he's going to be on the field the same amount as Paris Campbell, okay, obviously just came off of a big game, and he would open up a lot more. So I do like going that route. And then in this game specifically, do you want to play Matt Ryan? Obviously, if you are playing 2 pass catchers for the Colts, you would want to do that. I don't know. Apparently I like Matt Ryan a little bit more than everyone else. Like, he has sucked, but at the same time, the Vikings defense has sucked, and he should be throwing the ball 35 plus times. All he needs to do is get like 2 touchdowns and, 200 passing yards. Now, I will say, I'm honestly shocked that they haven't went back to Sam Ehlinger, like giving him a chance. That's just a weird thing to me, just given how bad Matt Ryan has looked, especially given the fact that this is a good matchup. Like, you put him in against the two of the best defenses in the league in Washington and New England. Like, what did they expect? It's just one of those weird things. Like, come on. Like, Mike White starting and looking good against Chicago and Minnesota. Like, yeah, he should. Those are easier matchups. Like, just strange. I kind of felt bad for Sam Ehlinger. And then just looking at the final points of the Colts, like Kylan Granson, a very cheap price tag for him. Okay, obviously going to be their starting tight end, going to be on the field for about 65 to maybe 80% of the snaps. 6 targets last week. Obviously like that. If it is going to be a pass-heavy game for the Colts, then he is someone that makes a ton of sense. He is someone that I do want to go out of my way to play at 2.2. He is more of a lineup filler for me, but I'll show you guys a lineup process that I like to have him in there. Now, looking at Minnesota, you guys kind of already know my thoughts, but for me, it's kind of simple. Like, yes, if we can afford to fit Justin Jefferson into our build, I think we should. Is he going to have a ceiling game? No, he probably won't against this Colts team. And can he give us 18 DK points, 15 DK points, 20 DK points? Certainly. Can he be in the winning lineup? Yes. Can he be in a cash winning lineup? I think so. So I do think it's easy enough to fit him into your builds, and I have been going on my way to fit him into my builds. And then so from there, like Dalvin Cook, do you play him? I do think it's tough. Like Dalvin Cook, he looks good, playing a lot of snaps. It's just like the production randomly hasn't been there. And sure, against New England, anytime a team plays New England or even the Jets, I kind of just don't concentrate on those games because those defenses are so good. You kind of those are matchups that you're trying to avoid. So like, I'm not too worried about that. The thing that I'm worried about is 9.6 against Detroit. Now, obviously, that's a pass-friendly matchup, and that's why. He is someone I do want to play. I would prioritize him over Kirk Cousins, but at the same time, we got TJ Hawkinson at a much cheaper price tag, and he's playing, more snaps than Dalvin Cook and getting 6+ targets a game. It's tough not to like TJ Hawkinson as well. So this is like a lineup path in which I'd be fine rolling with Granson, okay? But at the same time, I don't hate KJ Osborne as like a discount price point play. He's someone that does play about 70% of the snaps, more of just a lineup filler. Like, it's just not shocking when he has a random pop-up good game. That can happen. So for this specific build, let's go ahead and put Pierce in there. And like, this is how you could get Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson into a build, but then you're left with like Mo Alley Cox, or not even Mo Alley Cox. So like, this is where I guess I'd feel like we'd have to rebuild. And I guess if you really want to fit the studs in there, you could go Granson at the captain spot, but I don't love that. There are slates in which I like just jamming in the studs where we know the studs are all going to go off, and we have a decent price point play. That's not this slate. Just a weird price point. Like, you could go the kickers. I'm fine with that. Like, that works. Greg Joseph. Like, we'd be fine with this. Like, this is fine. Let's see. I had a couple of other builds. Let's see here. Yes, this one. Okay, so this one was one I was fine to end up on. The issue I had was it doesn't really make sense to have JT and Matt Ryan in a build together. That was my biggest issue with it, but I like the fact that we were able to run it back with Hawkinson and KJ Osborne. Like, that's a fine one as well, not perfect. And so this is kind of my long way of saying not the best slate to attack showdown-wise because we don't have a perfect lineup path, and really for GPP purposes, there's not a very logical way to go about stacking it, but maybe that's why we like the GPP, because there's not a logical way to go about attacking it. Miss your Sunday live feed. So honestly, part of the reason why I haven't been able to go live is literally my voice starts to go off after, or go out after like 30 minutes, like it is right now. Let's see. I'm trying to catch up on the questions here. People bet both sides. The spread. Casinos make money. Yeah. Yep. Let's see here. If you have a non-rushing QB, you need to pass. Catchers. Yep. That makes sense. Singletary. Thoughts on Devin Singletary in the main slate. So we'll go back to that real quick. So I don't hate Devin Singletary. Like if we knew that he was still going to be playing around 75% of the snaps like he had been the whole season up until the last two games, I would say yes, Devin Singletary makes a lot of sense on this slate. But on this slate in which he is only going to play probably about 50% of the snaps, maybe 60, it's tough to like him as a play. And I get it, like they should be running the football a little bit more, but it's not going to be as efficient as it has been. Like it's probably going to be closer to this type of game for Devin Singletary, 3.6 yards per carry. And the question is, can he fall into the end zone? I obviously you're guessing at that point, but I would almost, don't want to say I'd almost want to play James Cook at a cheaper price tag, but I would say the logic behind Devin Singletary is going to be the same logic behind James Cook as a play on this slate. I don't want to play either of them. I'd rather play J.K. Dobbins. I'd rather play Mostert. Those snaps are going to be more guaranteed, and obviously Dobbins gets a much better matchup. So I'd rather go that approach. Okay. And so for me, I just haven't been able to play the Buffalo running backs. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this Buffalo-Cleveland game preview-wise. So looking at it, you guys already know my thoughts on Deshaun Watson. I do think he's going to be kind of the safest quarterback play on the main slate, which is ugly to say because he looked so terrible in his first game back. And trying to count on a rushing touchdown or rushing yards, I don't love. But he's okay. He's an okay play. Going against Baltimore defense, I don't mind that. I just don't know if I want to play him in the captain spot. Who I do want to play in the captain spot should be kind of obvious, I would say. Amari Cooper would be one of them, and I probably will spread it out this way. Amari Cooper, J.K. Dobbins, obviously two great matchups for both of those guys, but even DPJ and David Njoku also. Okay, so DPJ obviously priced a little bit cheaper than Amari Cooper, and I think we're at the point in the season that they both can coexist and have good games, and it's just not shocking that DPJ is having good games. And so their price tags should be closer aligned, I would say. And then David Njoku just playing so many snaps, and it does seem that Watson and him have a connection. 7 targets 2 weeks ago, 9 targets the previous week. The production's been there. He has been someone that really just needs to be on the field a ton. And when he has looked good. I mean, we have seen him have a great stretch of production. And then obviously the first game back didn't play that many snaps, and then boom, instantly came back. So he is someone that actually I think makes a ton of sense as like a low-owned captain play on that slate for showdown purposes. Like it's going to be unique, and not many people are going to be on it. But like you could easily just go like a full Cleveland stack. Maybe you won't want to go Dobbins now, but Dobbins in the flex. And you still have a decent amount of salary left over for if you want to play captain, you could go captain there. Obviously, let's go David Njoku in the captain here. Like you still have a decent amount of salary left over. If you want to punt with Harrison Bryant, sure, you could do that. James Prochet playing 15% snaps, I guess you could do that. Like you don't love that, but it's a route that would work. And then like Demarcus Robinson, I guess for this specific build, the logic behind it would be, all right, Cleveland is dominating. Okay, they're really passing the ball efficiently. The Baltimore Ravens are playing from behind. It would make more sense to go with Robinson. And then it would make sense to go Duvernay or potentially Kenyon Drake. Like both not terrible. But I do want to try to fit in J.K. Dobbins or Tyler Huntley. And I don't mind Tyler Huntley at this price point. Like we are getting a rushing quarterback at 9.6. That's appealing to me. Like he had 9 rushing attempts in one half. So if you were to double that, that's almost 20 rushing attempts, and it would have been like 61 yards or so. Obviously not great there. But a floor of maybe 5 DK points rushing the football, and then we hope to get 5 DK points or so throwing the football, and then if we can add a touchdown either way, it's a little bit intriguing to me. Obviously, if you got a rushing quarterback, it really just takes one run to pop off a big play. So he is something interesting that I like. Thus far, I haven't been able to find a way to put him into a build, though. That's been my biggest issue, is finding a way to put him into a build. And then Justin Tucker. I mean, Justin Tucker's cheap for Justin Tucker, isn't he? Yeah, I do like that idea to stack Huntley and Andrews together. I like that idea there. All right, so all right, let's get Tucker in there. And let's see if we can get DPJ in the captain spot with this one. We can. That's a lot of salary left over. Like, not a terrible build there. I would take that. That's decent. Obviously, I don't like the idea of fading Cooper, but this would work. That's not bad. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's get into the terrible weather game of Buffalo versus Miami. I'm actually kind of curious. What are your guys' thoughts on Josh Allen as a captain's play for this game specifically? It's an interesting thought. Like, do you play both defenses on the slate? And if so, do you play one of them in the captain spot? Those are the questions that I have for this slate. How much is the weather going to impact it? And if it is, like, where do you go? Because if you say, yes, it's going to be a big weather game, the defenses, there's no way that any of them go negative. They're both going to score over 5 DK points. You just need to load up on them. So that would mean Bills D and Dolphins D, which is ugly. But if you were to do that, you could easily go Josh Allen. You could go Mostert. Heck, you could go Hill. Just miss out on Diggs. You could go Tua. Like, I don't love that, but that would be the logic, is that you play both defenses and then you play the players that are going to get the most points for each team, which obviously would be these guys. And, a simple maneuver here would be go Diggs here and then just switch the defenses. It's like, obviously the thought process is that the defenses will have a good game, but at the same time, like, the good players are still going to be productive enough showdown wise. Like, it's I don't love it, but like, logically, this is a great way to fit in all the studs if you think the weather is going to be as difficult as it is. I don't love that. Once again, I just want to call that out. Yeah, so that's the thing about this showdown slate, is that, and really all of them today, except for maybe the earlier game, this game, there shouldn't be anyone too chalky in the captain spot. Okay, we're not going to get Christian McCaffrey 50% owned in the captain spot. Okay, like, there just shouldn't be anyone chalky in the captain spot. This is very much, given the weather, you try to get lucky. You make 10 different variations of a build, and switch out the captain in all of them. Now that's kind of how I see this slate, because could Gabe Davis catch a touchdown? One deep play, certainly can. In this weather situation, I can definitely see that happening. Can Dawson Knox have a decent game where Dawson Knox is just catching a bunch of short passes? I could definitely see that happening. Okay. Could they do stupid end around plays to Isaiah McKenzie, like where they're just giving him, 3 carries just in the backfield because they can't throw the football, and maybe he pops a big touchdown? Like, that can happen as well. That is all kind of stuff that we needed to prepare for, because we don't have a good sense of what this game is going to be, except for the fact that with the poor weather, the defenses should at least be able to put up 5 DK points each. And then I would say Josh Allen probably going to get a rushing touchdown. Like, just logically speaking, I would say that, he should get like 12 carries in this one. And if they get close to the goal line, they're probably going to do some QB power runs. And maybe that opens up some sort of pop pass, in games in which there's a lots of wind. I don't know which way the wind is going. Did anyone see that by chance? Which way the wind was blowing? Because that does matter. Like, if it's crosswind, you can't really throw the football. If it's, back to you or with you, obviously that depends on the quarter. So there would be a quarter in which, or 2 quarters in which each team could throw the football, well down the field, and 2 quarters in which it'd be a lot of short dump off passes. Okay. And that's where the wind is coming from would kind of matter for DFS, because crosswind, it's not going to be able to throw the football that much, just at all. If it's back to you, obviously that opens up some more deep balls. Should, in theory, be a little bit easier to throw the football. And then if you're thrown into the wind, lots of short passes. Okay, so that'd be the biggest question. But I do think Josh Allen. I think we can afford to play Josh Allen. I do think we can afford Raheem Mostert. And Raheem Mostert is definitely predicated on Jeff Wilson being inactive. If we get news that Jeff Wilson is active, I mean, forget this showdown. Say that makes it so much more difficult. I would almost probably just want to fade both the running backs at that point. But at the same time, Miami's going to run the football a little bit more. Teams have been able to run the football against the Bills much more as the season has progressed. So maybe you go 50-50 with them, and I don't love that. Oh, man. Yeah, that sucks. And especially for the main slate, like it's tough to depend on Mostert with that game time decision for Wilson. And like Wilson, I don't know. I would say Wilson's the better running back. They're basically the same guy, but it was strange that Mostert kind of took over without the injury. Yeah, I would say I agree. Short passes, but like, where are the short passes? Are there going to be screens? I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be that much screens. It's probably going to be the stupid shuffle passes and stuff. And then, yes, a lot of hitches and whatnot, but a lot of crossers. And that's where Diggs, I guess, would feast, and McKenzie would feast, is lots of crossers. And then if they're able to connect on those, then that would open up Gabe Davis down the field. But that's difficult. Yeah, it should be like, it's tough not to like this build. Like, I'm kind of stuck in this one, and I don't like being too married to a build. And maybe instead of Mostert, you go McKenzie, kind of for that point that I brought up, where would take one end around play for him to score a touchdown. Then I'm curious about Tua. I need to pull up his recent production. So yeah, against the Chargers, that was a very strange game that he struggled in. And it's really, while Jalen Waddle has disappeared with what seems to be an injury that they're not really reporting, Tua has also kind of disappeared. So that's kind of strange there. And that's where I am kind of just fading Tua. Now watch Tua gets two QB sneak touchdowns. That's crazy. So the thing, all right, Robert's bringing up that it's going to be out to the flats, a lot of passes, but at the same time, the defense knows that, and that's where it's difficult, because this should be a super easy game to defend. And that's where it does make sense to throw Gabe Davis into a couple of builds, because if they are playing the short routes, all it takes is one lucky play to hit, All right, so I think we got this covered up pretty much. I'm going to get into the closing section, so if you guys have any questions, make sure to get those in. And I'm just going to go back to the main slate here. Some people were wondering about Sunday slate. I don't know. Let me know. Do you guys think I should do a Sunday live stream? And if so, what time? If you guys are coming in after the video has been posted, or done being live, put it in the comment section. I would say around 10 would be a good time again, because it still gives us all enough time to make our lineup changes that we need to if we're doing a lineup builder and whatnot. And for me personally, like, that's the toughest part about putting out content. It's both being able to put out, solid, actionable content, and also playing it. It makes it more difficult. All right, so I want to do one more build with Matt Ryan in there. And then I'm going to do one build with the Vikings D, and then I'll be getting out. All right. Okay. So yeah, I mean, this is a pretty good build on paper. If Matt Ryan has a good game, that would be a pretty pretty solid build right there. What's your favorite puke stack? With the news that Mike White is out, my favorite ugly stack, King Null, is going to be Zach Wilson, Garrett Wilson, and then deciding between Denzel Mims and also Elijah Moore. That's my ugly stack. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate all you guys, Robert as well, coming in here, always putting in lots of comments. That does help out the videos a lot. So I do appreciate that as well. But yeah, I like this build a decent amount. And apparently it's not going to be too chalky. So that's one build. And then lastly, let's go ahead and put a Minnesota build in there. So people are liking Kirk Cousins. Apparently it does make sense. He's kind of just the natural shoulder shrug quarterback that you end up on. Not a sexy play, but also someone that shouldn't burn you. So yeah, that does make sense. So once again, going JT, it's just tough not to play JT. Although in this sense, where we are loading up on the Vikings, JT makes a lot less sense. And so Vikings D is going to be lower owned than they should be, I think, given the weather situation that's going on in the Minnesota Buffalo game. But at the same time, like if the Vikings can get home, it wouldn't be shocking to see them get like a fumble 6 or 5 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries. Like Matt Ryan has just looked poor. Okay. Do I think the Vikings are going to give up a couple of passing touchdowns? Yes. But at the same time, can they be productive enough? Yes. I think both can work. It's Dobbins' birthday today. All right, so we're just locking in J.K. Dobbins. I do remember seeing that, I think, earlier on in the week. Good call out there, Ricky. I like that. And honestly, if this was NBA DFS, I would just be loading up more on J.K. Dobbins. It just seems like the narratives matter a lot more in NBA DFS, where in NFL, it's more of a cherry on top to the storylines where, oh, it's his birthday, he scored a touchdown. Because obviously NFL, you can't really dictate how well you play. If the play's there, you can make the play and whatnot. But I like that. J.K. Dobbins gets a small boost for me now. Okay, so if we're playing Kirk Cousins, then we have to play T.J. Hawkinson. There's just no question about that. And then this would actually be a build I think we can go with Njoku in the flex as a sneaky low-owned kind of flex play. Combining those two. And then Justin Jefferson, obviously, I think do we have to play Thielen or KJ? I would say yes. I would say we would have to. But let me go ahead and get Cooper in there first. Okay. Pierce? I'd like Pierce more. 5.2. J.K. Dobbins. I mean, look at that. That's just a nice looking build right there as well. With obviously the logic behind it that we liked. Maybe instead of JT, you would go Dalvin Cook. I don't mind that. And watch this finally be a slate in which Nick Chubb dominates with Deshaun Watson finally. Is Green Bay making the playoffs? No. They are. So the matchup actually between the Green Bay Packers and the LA Rams is a very interesting one. I'll talk about this for the showdown slate on that game. But they're two teams in which I think healthy would have Super Bowl aspirations. They are just two teams that clearly have been banged up by injuries. So it's a fun matchup for Monday for me because they are both solid teams on paper. They're just so banged up that, it's just one of those wasted seasons pretty much. And that happens in the NFL all the time. The healthiest teams are the teams that typically make the playoffs. That's just how it goes. And then once you get to the playoffs, it's a whole different kind of breed. I appreciate that, Ricky. They will give him more opportunity. Who will they give more opportunities to? J.K. Dobbins today? Is that what you're saying? I mean, just in general, one more game healthy is kind of my thought process for J.K. So, that would make sense for me there. All right, going to switch up into the end screen here and then, be closing up here in about a minute or two if there's no more questions. And I guess I don't have the webcam popped up here. Let's go ahead and add that. There we go. Shrink that down. Like I said, it's been a while since I've done a live stream here, guys. So yeah, I might be able to do a live stream tomorrow for Sunday slates. I wouldn't mind that, especially if I think this went pretty well. The biggest issue I've had, especially with live streams as well, is I've been trying to put out more NBA DFS content as well, and then golf's right around the corner. So it's like trying to schedule it out correctly to the point where like it makes sense to put out the content, and the scheduling of the content is what I've been trying to figure out. Okay, so that's been my biggest issue. So I would love to do an NBA DFS live stream. I have been working on that as well. So probably not tonight, but I think starting on Monday, I will be doing an NBA DFS live stream as well. Which defense will get the defensive touchdown? I would say, honestly, the defense I think has the best chance to score a touchdown is the Vikings, going against Matt Ryan. Because like the weather game in Miami Buffalo, sure, there could be some turnovers, but it's going to be kind of a scrum for that game. So like the chances of a ball kind of being a pick six are lower. I would say the chances of a scoop and score are much lower, just because there's not as much traction and whatnot. So you're like kind of the moves to scoop and score are a little bit more difficult, I guess, in that weather. That's kind of my thought process, at least. I mean, who knows? That's probably honestly going to be what decides the slate, is which defense scores a touchdown. Sadly, that could easily be the Vikings, I would say. And it's easy to make the Vikings work. That's my issue. Do it late tonight, NBA DFS. No, not tonight. Not tonight. Being an individual content creator, I do need to, I guess, still work the 9 to 5, if you will. So like that would be something I think I would do NBA DFS live streams most likely just Monday through Friday, and I want to set the expectation correctly for those too. So it's like, all right, every day it's going to be 10 a.m. NBA DFS live stream or something like that. All right, I'm getting out of here, guys. Appreciate everyone in the chat. That was a fun live stream. Let's have a good slate, guys, and as always, let's keep cashing.